Hello, and welcome to the Decking Awesome Games podcast, where we talk about how to create your own board game, our journey through the board game industry, and chat about board game culture in Ireland. My name is Owen, and I'm joined today by the awesome Ciara and Brian.
Hello.
Hello.
Today we're talking about our top 5 Christmas games. We're going to discuss why we love these games so much, why they are perfect for Christmas, and some of our memories of the games. So this is a little bit of a different topic that we usually do on the podcast. We thought it was a fun idea that some of our listeners would like to hear. So let's start off with number 5. Brian, what was yours?
Yeah, it was really hard to put these in order. I think I'm going to put Munchkin Quest in. Munchkin Quest is one of my favourite games. It's got a little bit of a kind of sentimental thing for me, because when I started to get into board games originally, Munchkin was one of the first games I ever played. It was so easy to pick up. It was so much fun, betraying and helping out and stealing and everything. It was brilliant. And then I came across Munchkin Quest, where you're playing the Munchkin game, but you're wandering around a dungeon while you do it, and now you have hordes of monsters that are just rambling around together. Sometimes they're splitting up, sometimes they're just gathering into a giant bunch that you're running around trying to avoid. And it was just, it amazed me that such a simple game that was so brilliant and easy to pick up was now this really strategic dungeon crawler kind of game where, you were still playing the same basic game, but you now had all these new mechanics and new features to it. It amazed me how much could be done with like a good base game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because Munchkin is such a really popular board game all around the board game industry. Munchkin has so many different types and variants of all sorts of different things, and Munchkin Quest is a great addition to that, just because of those mechanics you mentioned. The whole dungeon crawling, it adds a whole new mechanic to it that makes replaying it so much more fun. And it still has all the intrigue and drama of normal Munchkin.
Yeah, it does get a lot harder, like in normal Munchkin, where you're fighting against one monster that's too big for you. Now you have monsters with all special abilities that can knock down doors and break through walls, and now all of a sudden one monster has decided that he's going to grab a few more monsters along the way, and you're walking into a room and all of a sudden there's 5 monsters there that you're completely outmatched for. And I just love it. I find it was initially a bit of a tough game to pick up with the rules, or so I found anyway, but again, it was one of the earlier games I played, so maybe it was just I wasn't used to reading rule books, but it is, once you get playing it, it's very easy to play, and it's a really, really enjoyable game.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially as a Christmas game, I think that would be very fun to bring it out in front of family.
Yeah.
I think everybody would have fun with it as they play, because Munchkin is quite straightforward, and adding in that complexity of the dungeon doesn't add too much once you get the basic grasp of the game.
Yeah, I think if you're playing it with people who aren't big board gamers, a basic Munchkin game is a great way to go. If it's people who've played even a handful of board games in the past, Munchkin Quest is a great addition to a normal Munchkin game that adds a whole new level that you haven't seen before. It's so much fun. I kind of want to play it now.
Ciara, what was your number 5?
So I picked Craftwagon. This is quite a hard game to acquire, if you can acquire, and I actually bought it for you for a birthday or Christmas. But I really love it. I really enjoy worker placement games and that sort of Euro game style of playing, and Craftwagon took a very interesting twist on it. So there's 3 interesting areas that I really enjoyed playing, or 3 interesting mechanics that I really enjoyed about the game. How you choose what actions to do, and like the cost to benefit of picking an action that could mean you don't get another go for a while, or picking something really easy to do that maybe doesn't benefit you a whole lot, but at least you'll get another go pretty quickly. So I thought that mechanic was quite unique compared to a lot of other games. And I also liked the racing car, that you could like build a racing car while you're building a car factory. So you had those 2 things to balance off each other. And I think that all those things just mean that I think it's a very interesting worker placement style game. And I like those sorts of things.
A literal engine builder.
Yeah, definitely. I love the team starting off from the bottom, building a Ford engine, starting off from the very start of car engineering, and then building yourself up with Formula 1, just figuring out what the kind of bodies, shapes people start to like, and all these different styles that happen throughout the ages. So if you're kind of a car nut, it's a perfect game. just because people can like see all the different changes that happen, and you can choose however you want to build up your car. If you want to just go for the engine, and you want to have the biggest engine, and you want to get like a really cool Mercedes engine, you can go for that. And then if you want to just win at the Formula 1, you can go for that. But like you said, the mechanics, I've played a lot of games with Rondell. It's never a good idea to go further down the track and lose your actions. You can figure out what the Rondell mechanic is if you play the game, but it's like kind of risking losing all your goes by picking out an action you want to do. And that usually kind of hinders the player a lot. But in this game, it works out pretty well. And taking that risk usually does kind of mean you get a better chance of winning.
And it's really good with a bunch of people. I'd say it's not probably an entry-level game because trying to keep track of 3 quite distinct areas to focus on, and even of those 3 areas, there's like further complications on when you're building your factory. You might be building cars to sell cheaply, or cars to sell really like lots of cars to sell cheaply, or just big expensive cars to sell, and there's like sub decisions in each section that you have to make, so it can be quite hard to keep track of all the sections all at the time. But I think that for somebody who plays a lot of those games, it provides some really interesting challenges. It has good replayability and is good with a lot of people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You can definitely keep playing this over and over again and getting better at the game, and kind of further understanding, like trying to tailor the markets that come out to see what kind of things you should buy. And it doesn't force you to play a certain way. You can win by several different methods. So it's good for like a balanced players that all want to try something new and different. But yeah, I definitely probably wouldn't play it in front of family who haven't played board games before, but it's perfect for a person who loves board games and Euro games.
You make it sound really shameful. Like, don't play it in front of them. Don't let them see you playing this game. They'll judge you. Sit down. There's going to be a Christmas intervention. You know there is.
Well, they'd have to really love board games and kind of like spend time to be able to understand the mechanic. This isn't something light and fluffy.
Yeah, exactly. What about yourself?
Oh, okay. So my number 5 is Cube Quest. It's a dexterity game where you have an army and the other person has an army. It's a 2-player game, but the army is dice, and they're kind of big, chunky plastic pieces of dice, and each one has like a different kind of ability. Like you might be like this defender or like the king, and the idea behind the game is you got to take out the opponent's king by knocking him off the board, and you do that by flicking your pieces at his king. So there's not a whole lot of tactics, and it's just kind of crazy and messy. You end up just kind of flicking all over the place, and you'll end up just killing your own guys rather than like killing them. But it's really fun. It's really messy, and there's loads of replayability in it because you can set up your stack and where your king is at the start, however kind of way you want to kind of stack up all these little dice, and it's just fun. It's just really, really fun.
And another thing about the replayability on that one is that you get a certain amount of points. So you can only put certain types of dice in your army, and you can switch them in and out. Like I'd say there was a few, I'm not great at flicking in general, so there was a few types of soldiers that suited me a lot better. Maybe just to have more soldiers than to have fancy soldiers, so that if I flicked them off the table all the time, it wouldn't matter too much, or the fact that they missed, I'd still have a lot of soldiers left. Yeah. Worked well.
Cube Quest is a great entry level game. If you've never played anything before, or you just feel like taking out your frustration by flicking some plastic cubes around, it's an amazing one.
Yeah, I always find it's really good for an intro to a game night, or even to get people around the table. And it doesn't have to be just a 2-player game. You can have teams of people flicking the dice. But I would say that after about 2 or 3 games, your fingers do tend to get sore, and you got to pick something else. But for those 2 games, it's fantastic. When you feel like you're hurting, stop.
Put on gloves. Just nice, thick, woolly gloves that you've worn into the house for Christmas.
Gloves might work. I've never tried gloves. That's a good idea. Yeah, that could work.
Game changer.
I don't know, would the softness not dampen the strength of your finger?
Yeah,
probably. I mean, depends how thick your gloves are. If you get really cold hands and you have mittens, maybe, but...
Yeah, that could work. Okay, so that's our number 5s. Number 4, Brian.
Oh, number 4, I suppose I'm going to have to go for Mansions of Madness. This is, it's a great game. I think it's a brilliant step forward as well. Mansions of Madness is a game where you're essentially investigating hauntings in this mansion that you're exploring as you go along. So as you open rooms, new tiles are placed down, but it has a brilliant incorporation with a smartphone or a tablet or whatever it is. You don't see many games like it, and they're not always brilliant, but Mansions of Madness is fantastic. if you decide you want to explore a table, you can click on the table and it'll tell you, oh, you find this here, or it gives you a clue that lets you know that there's a hidden room over there, kind of thing. And it's just a fantastic integration of app and board game. You don't feel like you're just playing a game on your phone, but you're also not just playing a board game. It's like having someone tell a story as you're going along, but without having to have someone sit out the game or someone just sit there with the rule book explaining things. Everyone can be involved. Now, it is quite a heavy game, so it's easy to pick up, I suppose. But if you're not a big board gamer, I might skip this one for a first entry level, or try to play it with some people who've played board games before. It's a great game.
It can be hard to coordinate. Also, we lose a lot.
Yeah.
But I suppose that makes it a bit more of a challenge than some of the other co-op games, because we tend to be quite good at other co-op games, and then getting everyone in line to actually try and win can be quite hard. Yeah. But I really enjoy the team. I think that the horror, it's scary. Like the bad guys are hard enough to kill that they keep you challenged, and you are really driven towards trying to win. So I really love that about it.
Yeah.
I don't think we actually won any of the games yet.
No.
But we had great fun the whole time playing it.
That's the beauty of it, yeah. It's a game that you lose and you're still going, oh yeah, that was amazing. We're definitely going to win the next one.
We got pretty close the last time.
We did. We just got trapped at the end of a pier with a riotous mob coming towards us.
It's a Cthulhu type game where you're all investigators trying to find out some sort of mysterious happenings that are going on, and it usually ends up being kind of like Satanist cults or some sort of demon from the underworld or something like that. So it's kind of a really good team, and it's very dark and mysterious and has a lot of depth to it.
It is a little on the more expensive side, but it's a great game with hours and hours of play in it, and I think there's a few expansions for it out at this point, is there? That you can,
I think it's along the lines so far we've picked quite expensive games.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's a big box.
Cube Quest is cheap enough, I think.
Is it?
No,
No, it's not. Because it has a big man.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And like Kraftwagen is impossible to get, so there you go.
Yeah.
Find it off eBay somewhere.
I don't even know that Munchkin Quest is still on the market.
Okay, Kira, number 4.
So I went for the Escape Room in a Box game, The Werewolf Experiment. I like escape room games of all descriptions. There's some I really love. There's kind of a variety over Exit and Deckscape. But I picked this one because it's quite unusual in that in the board game they've tried to put some physical elements. Like they have padlocks and lock boxes, and they have some things you have to figure out, like little dishes and things that you can interact with. So I suppose it's a bit more expensive than a normal one. I advise if you get it, like they give you some instructions on how to rebuild it so that you can share it with people to kind of get your money's worth, because other escape room games they're designed to be cheaper so that you can use them once and you don't feel that bad. Yeah. The theme is along the same lines as all other escape room games. I think it's kind of a slightly horror one, but the experience is good and it's somewhere closer to an escape room than maybe a card game. But I really enjoy all escape room games, board games and real life ones. So I definitely would recommend them for Christmas and for anyone.
Yeah, this is a perfect Christmas game, I think. It's about the size of a normal board game box, but because of the physical components, it's way more fun and way more tactile than the other board games. So like, Deckscape and stuff like that, they're really fun games as well. And they're really handy because they're kind of transportable. But if you don't need to be transported anywhere, if you're just doing it in your kitchen room or your dining room, this is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, you can sit around 4 or 5 of you solving the puzzles or trying to untie the rope in a specific way.
And everyone usually gets something to do. So it's definitely a great co-op one because it does lend itself to everyone trying to solve a little bit of the puzzle. Even more so than maybe the card ones where there's nothing you can hand around. Everyone has to just look over a table. There's just that bit more interaction in it. It's really enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's a pity it's one shot, but it's so good.
Yeah. Once you print off the other materials for the game, and you can send it off to your friends and you can send it off to your other family members and stuff. Yeah. So there is some. It's worth the cost of the game.
It is. It's definitely worth the cost. And to be fair, their website gives you all the information you need to rebuild the game so that somebody else can play it. They're very good like that. What about yourself, Owen? What's yours?
My number 4 is Pandemic Legacy Season 1. So, Pandemic is a very popular game. It's a co-op game. When I got into board games, I thought co-op games didn't exist. And when I played Pandemic, I thought this is a great mechanic to have into to bringing people together. It's everybody against the board game. So everybody wins or everybody loses, which sounds kind of like a happy-go-lucky kind of thing. But Pandemic Legacy Season 1 allows there to be an ongoing story into Pandemic. Every time you play, the game changes ever so slightly, and you're being told a story, and all your actions actually take effect onto the world. So in Pandemic, you're scientists and all sorts of other different types of people who are trying to stop a whole load of plagues and diseases from spreading across the world. So you kind of start off in Atlanta and you kind of move all around the world to Asia and Europe and all sorts of stuff like that, and just doing all sorts of crazy stuff along the way. And every single session you play in Pandemic Legacy, that will affect the game, and you'll kind of open up new cards and it'll reveal new stories as the diseases change. And obviously I'm not going to give away the whole story as to what happens. There are spoilers to it, but it's a really fun.
Spoilers.
Yeah, it's a really fun campaign that people can enjoy. It does take a long time to play. There's 12 sessions to do it.
Yeah.
If you fail one, you redo it. So there's a maximum of 24.
Minimum 12. So.
Yeah,
But,
you're really going to play around 16, 18 plays of the game, which is great money. Because although you might be thinking, oh, you just play it once and you're done, you still get 20 solid plays of the game, which all last 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's a solid amount of time and solid amount of entertainment, and it's definitely worth the money.
And you can play it over a long period of time. We played it over an especially long period of time because somebody went to Canada to go live there for a while.
That's me.
The fact that it's over 12 months means you kind of have that, you get more invested in it, and you think you can make a change. Like if something is going badly, each time you're like, oh, next time we can just nip that in the bud and then get to whatever the next thing is, and the game will keep throwing more and more challenges at you. So every time you're like, ooh, what do we have to focus on next time? It really drives you.
It is very cleverly done as well, that no matter what route or strategy you pick, there's always a curveball waiting for you in the next month to make you think, oh crap, that was the wrong strategy. If you were to play it again and pick a different strategy, that there'd be just a different curveball to say, oh, I did it right the first time.
Yeah. And there's very little games out there where choices really matter. And because this game, it'll affect all the sessions you're ever going to have with the game. It means every decision you make at the end of the game or during the game, they really matter. And it's not just a one-off and, you have a bad game night or whatever. It can affect it. But I wouldn't put too much pressure on you from playing the game. It's still fun. You don't have to worry too much about it. The game lets you play however you want to play it. But I'd really
and
enjoy
there's
it.
pickups. So if you go way off track and you mess up your game, if you lose enough times, there's little pick-me-ups that get you back on track. So the game makers clearly thought about how to loop you back in if you have lost a bunch of times in a row. We're really bad in season 1 and season 2. We were really bad around the April time frame. By April, we had messed up something, but we always managed to get it back on track.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 3, Brian.
Number 3, I've gone for a kind of lighter, easier to get into game, Colt Express. I love this game. It's a kind of programming game where you're playing as a group of bandits trying to rob money and jewels off a train, and you have a marshal walking up and down the train shooting at you while the bandits are shooting at each other. But the really fun part of this game is that you decide all your moves in advance, and all the players are interacting with each other throughout the whole game. So you tell your guy to climb up onto the roof so he can run along and get some jewels in the next carriage, and in the meantime someone has climbed up onto the roof and shot you, and all you've done is walked straight into their bullet. What I love in a game, especially like this, is when you have different character sheets and each character has their own kind of little mini ability. So you have some who, can't be hit or punched if they're around other people, and some who can steal money better, and others who can hide what they're doing for a while. And and there's so many different variants to it. It's a great game that plays completely differently every time. Unless you're me, I always just go for the suitcase. I have a very predictable strategy. I have never won the game.
Mostly because you say at the start, I'm going for the suitcase.
Yeah, yeah, I am pretty obvious about it.
Yeah.
There is also 2 great expansions for it. The horses, where you can run along the side of the train and Marshal and Prisoners, where if you have, I think that one's up to 8 players, so you can play as the Marshal who's going around trying to shoot people and arrest people, and others are trying to rescue people out of jail, and it's such a variable game, but it's also really easy to get into and to pick up. And for a first time gamer or someone who's never really played, it's so easy to pick up, but it's also really aesthetically lovely because you have these cardboard cutouts that all kind of sit together to make an actual train on the table in front of you, and little cactus standees and things that sit around, and it just looks so nice as well. If you've never seen it, I recommend just looking up a picture of it as well, because it is just such a nice looking game to play as well as to actually play.
Yeah, I totally agree. But one of my favorite parts of Cold Express is when people are deciding their actions. It goes around the players and each person selects the card they want to play. Some people place their cards face down depending on like where they're going or what kind of character abilities you have, and so you never get the full picture of what is going to happen, and so you're just trying to figure out, okay, what can I do here to try and get my tactics going, and you're trying to figure out, you're trying to read other people, and then you place down your cards, and then after everybody's done, no one really knows, and then you actually play out what happened by like playing the cards out to everybody, and you realize that it's just absolute chaos.
Yeah.
And it's a total mess, and your plan just kind of nearly worked, just like 50% of it worked, and the other time you're just kind of shooting wildly and doing all kinds of weird stuff. That works really well.
It's also a game we've played a lot with new people.
Yeah.
Like with people who wouldn't have played anything very complicated before, and they get it. They understand how it works. I feel like strategically, they might not be as strategic as everyone else, but considering the fact that everyone else's plans get messed up, it kind of all balances out. You can randomly end up doing the right thing by accident, just as much as you can end up forgetting what you did at the start and can't remember where you are and then get thrown around.
I suppose the last people we played with, they'd never played the game before. We were super happy with and confident with our strategies, but through one thing and another and everyone getting bounced around, I think they ended up coming first and second. Like it's not like a huge knowledge of this game is massively beneficial. So it is a great open game, and it's readily available, and I don't think it's too expensive, but I recommend picking it up if you're looking for a kind of quirky, different kind of game for Christmas.
I like the idea of cowboys as well. It's a cool theme. Okay, so Kira, number 3.
Mine is Dominion. So that's a deck building game where everyone draws from an open pool of cards that everyone can see. And the idea is that you just try and build up your deck in whatever way suits you and win. It's very straightforward. I kind of prefer to play versions where there's minimal interaction. So you're kind of straightforward. Mostly you're just about trying to build the best hand that you can so that you can always do something. And maybe a little bit or 1 or 2 sets of cards where you have to directly affect the other person's game. I really enjoy that sort of game where it's not entirely directly linked to how well other people do, or you're not bluffing, or you don't have to pretend too much, and you can actually focus on just trying to enjoy figuring out how you would like the deck built. So I love that sort of idea. The advantage with Dominion is if you do like to interact with people, you can put out whole sets of the common pool of cards that are all about interacting with people and all about influencing each other's hands or attacking each other. So I think that Dominion has a good variety of stuff, and I just like the card mechanic of like getting to build up, but there's a little bit of random in whatever you draw each time.
Yeah, because deck building games have been around for a long time, and Dominion is quite old at this point, but the base game it still holds up as really, really strong. But also because it's been around for so long, there's lots of cool expansions out there. There's a lot of expansions, and some of them can really help.
So, Owen, what is your number
3?
Number 3, Blood Rage. So Blood Rage is a game about Nordic gods and going around all these kind of villages and destroying everybody and summoning, sea monsters and absolutely causing chaos and destruction all along these lands, waiting for Ragnarok, all sorts of, it's if you're a Viking, everyone to pretend to be a Viking and just go around murdering and taking what's yours, and it's a really great game.
If you're a Viking, if there's any Vikings still out there who are thinking about getting into the board game.
And they don't say murdering, it's pillaging.
Unlifing someone.
Each person has a certain clan of Vikings there, and they kind of go around the board. It's also there's a card drafting mechanism in it at the start where you'll pick up special powers. You also pick up ways to win the game by giving you victory points. There's different methods of doing it. Like Loki has one where if your people get killed, get sent to Valhalla, then you'll get points that way. So it's kind of play the game in a different style than you normally would. But usually it's just kind of sending in all sorts of crazy monsters and then kind of taking over the different lands and kind of taking over small villages. Really well played out, really streamlined game. Great for new people. It also has miniatures which look beautiful for new people and stuff like that are just wanting to just cause a lot of destruction. But it is kind of deep. There is like card drafting mechanisms in it which can be quite difficult for new people. So I wouldn't say it's perfectly straightforward, but if people are interested in digging a bit deep into board games, this is a great addition. And it's definitely one of my favorite games. Yeah.
It is a little on the pricey side, but the miniatures in it are just so beautiful and so well done, and it really adds to the game that you don't even consider the cost. It's really worth it.
I think there's a lot of different ways to play it. I remember the first time that somebody played the Loki aspect, massacring everyone on both their own team and everyone else's team. That was just like a really interesting way to play it and went down really, really well. Like, you didn't even know what to do to stop it.
Yeah. How do you stop someone who's just hell-bent on murdering all of their own people as well as everyone else's? It's like, it doesn't matter if I win or lose this battle. Someone's going to die. I'm getting points.
I thought that was really good. The fact that you can take a spin on each of the ways to win, and you can use a balance, or you can try just all out one section. It was really good.
And there are some expansions to it as well, which makes it pretty nice.
If you have the patience to sit down and paint all the little miniatures as well, you can add a lot more to the game. But
yeah, I've been trying to paint those miniatures for a while now. I've painted 2.5 out of about like 30. Yeah, or 30 or 40. Yeah. But it's fun. It is fun. Okay, so number 2. Me and Brian have picked the same game. What is it?
Roll for the Galaxy. This is, I actually think I bought this game for you for Christmas a couple of years ago, but it's still one of my all-time favourite games. I bought it because I know how much you love dice rolling, and I looked at the box and went, oh, like 600 dice in this? Yeah, I want to love that. Looked nothing more into the game at all and thought, worst case scenario, he throws a load of dice around. But it is so much fun. Between the dice rolling and like, you think it's going to be a very luck-based game, but there's so much strategy to it as well, and so many different routes and options to winning. Between, like, you'll roll your dice in secret, and you'll set out your strategy hidden from everyone, and you'll decide, okay, I'm going to ship a load of goods in this one, and then in the next one I'm going to build something over here, and then you're banking on other players as well to activate different phases so that you can do everything that you're hoping to do, and then other players don't, and you want to kill them. And
Yeah, it's really tough. But Roll for the Galaxy is so fun. It's based off a Race for the Galaxy game, but instead of adding they took out the randomness of the cards and all sorts of other different types and replaced it with just the rolling of dice. They might sound like kind of too random, but the dice allow you to at least give you some sort of control of what you're doing, and there is mechanics in there to allow you to have control. So it is a very strategic game, even if there is dice in it. And for a game that can last quite a while, it's really fun and really engaging. And this whole hidden mechanism of rolling your dice and then allocating it to specific actions in a hidden way, and then revealing to everybody what you've chosen, is just really fun. And it always makes people laugh that all the things they're trying to get people to do, like, you know, one player is always going to be doing like the mining thing, and then you put everything into mining but don't actually activate that action, assuming that they would, and then they don't, and then your whole go is wasted. It just leads to just brilliant.
I love that it while it does look like an intimidatingly confusing game, even from the box or the when you open it up and you've got all the pieces and boards and dice inside, I do think that once you've even played one round, it's very easy to figure out what you're doing. So if you're a novice board gamer, or even if you're a complete entry-level board gamer, maybe it'll take you a round or two to pick up, but in general it is quite easy to get the hang of and get good at it.
And I think it overlaps in the things that I like about Dominion. There's a lot of things you can control, and how well you can control them and build up really influences how well it's going. But there's sufficient overlap, so you can't destroy another person completely.
Yeah.
You always feel like you're achieving something, even if people gang up on you. There's no real ability to like completely destroy a person by ganging up on them or anything like that. All you can do is slightly influence and not give them the actions that they want.
Yeah.
I think that side of things makes it really, really, really replayable, and you enjoy the game more.
I suppose when you're able to see that one person is going all out on a strategy, no one activates that phase, and then you're forcing the person to do it themselves and wasting their own dice to do it, which is brilliant. Like I was saying, that you're banking on another player to activate something so that you can do your entire move, and then they don't, and you're just completely sitting there going, "Oh, I planned that one out badly."
Yeah, I love it. Kira, number 2. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Stone Age. So kind of same vein as Craftwagon, but I love it even more. There's several different ways to play it. This we got because we wanted a 2-player game. So me and Brian got it to play in the evening times, and it had good reviews for 2-player, even though it's a 2 to 4-player game.
Yeah.
I have to say that it is a good staple. It's enjoyable. You can try different mechanics. You do some strategy on what resources you want to pick up. You have feeding people. You have gathering resources. You have just going all out on points.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different strategies that you can win with. I think over the course of the years that we've had it, we've gone for all different ways. Yeah. So like using this kind of a scientific or
Culture.
old
The culture.
Exactly. The culture one, you can win with a combination of that and other things, or you can win with just all out building huts or getting multipliers. All of that stuff just makes it really enjoyable. And the better you get at it, the more of a challenge it is to like can think about how you're going to stop people at the same time as building up.
Yeah, so Stone Age is a game where you have several different tribes of Stone Age people, and they're trying to build up, trying to get new tools, trying to get new culture, but also trying to get resources. And they do that by kind of placing their people all around the board, kind of collecting like wood and gold and stuff like that, and then using that to kind of build new huts and stuff like that. But it's also a worker placement game, so you get to decide who you're trying to block from doing certain actions. So whether you're trying to upgrade your tools, you're the only person who can do that then. But another person might want to get more people in their group, and then you'll block other people from doing that. Yeah.
Go for all the wheat.
Yeah.
Sometimes Brian's a little predictable in his in his strategies. But I had the original game. I've just recently got the anniversary edition for the expansions that it has. But I think even the straightforward game, that alone has a lot of replayability. You don't need the expansions necessarily, but the expansions do add just a few more ways to win.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, the anniversary edition is very well made.
Yeah,
Very nice.
sorry, it's very pretty and well done. And you get like a winter and a summer version. So
Yeah,
So you can still play the original game in the anniversary edition.
Yeah, because there's a lot of board games go through this house and get brought, like taken out, put into attic, thrown out. But Stone Age has always been there, and I think it's like, although you gave me your original Stone Age one, but you had the Stone Age anniversary now,
Yeah.
so it's spread to my house too.
I like it. It's a very common game as well, and so easy to pick up. So if you'll find it in most board game shops or anywhere online, and I don't think it's too expensive. So if you're interested in getting into a game for Christmas and playing with 3 or 4 people, it's ideal.
for people who have played slightly more than Monopoly, but probably not much more, it's very easy to pick up.
Yeah.
We've played with people who don't now. I know me and Brian have played a lot, so probably now they might not so easily play with us. But it is good for everyone to pick up and just start.
Yeah, worker placements tend to be easier to explain than other Euro-style games because the basic idea is just put your guy somewhere on the board. And then, if everyone's kind of new to the game, it doesn't really matter which ones are better and which ones are worse. They just put it down and see what happens. And then you learn how to play the game later on. And so it's a very easy one to kind of teach as you play, which is great.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this for new people as well as people who've played games before.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so number 1. We all agreed on what our number 1 was, accidentally, as we kind of figured out what our top 5 was. And we all agreed it was Santorini.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we all said Santorini in there.
Yeah, Santorini here was on the list for all of us for our top 5 because it is a very, very enjoyable, quite short game, but with a lot of replayability.
Yeah, I think it's great for new people as well. Santorini, I think, is a place in Greece,
Yeah.
It's kind of quite beautiful place, and it has all of the components of building little Santorini houses. But you also have the Greek gods, and they're all trying to best each other in this kind of weird battle that's going on.
It's house building battle.
Yeah. And it's
Sorry, you're basically playing with two little workers who are running around the board and building houses and towers as they go. Basically, the way to win the game is to just get to the top of the tower. But of course, everyone's running around after you, trying to block you and building towers that are too tall for you to climb and interfering with you in whatever way they can, trying to trap your character in so they're not able to move. And it is really fun, and it's a very interactive game. I think one of my absolute favorite bits about it is the gods that are involved. So I think the basic game comes with, what is it, 10 or 15 gods or something like that?
no, like
No, it's
30.
30.
Oh,
Yeah,
30
it's
or
quite a
40.
lot.
Yeah, even better. And all the gods have different powers and different win conditions. So it's not just a case of getting to the top of the tower. You can do that, you can still win, but others have, like, build a certain amount of towers, jump off towers, run around and block people in and stuff like that. And it's just, with the different gods, it just has huge replayability to it.
Yeah, definitely. It's got such a great style to the game. Yeah, I like it. My favorite part of it is the components quality of it. So it's kind of redundant, but they have like this weird thing that raises the platform, and you're building on top of this platform, and they have little cubes for each of the tower pieces and little miniature pieces. And it's totally overkill. They didn't need to do all this kind of stuff to make the game, but just having all these components makes the game so much nicer to play and so much more fun.
Yeah.
And it also attracts people, and kind of like, so if you're just playing it at Christmas with a bunch of people, a lot of people are going to come over and just see what is going on here and want to play, because it's just such a engaging game. It's fun as well. There's like, because the gods add such crazy rules and they're randomly assigned, that like every game is going to be totally new, and you can never really get good at the game. It's more just having fun playing and seeing what happens, because there's too many gods to be able to get good at them all.
Yeah.
And I think there's quite a light but compelling strategy to the whole thing. So moving around, trying to force people to do things. There's some amount of you having a favourite strategy to it, and then people trying to force you to not be able to use that strategy. Or when you get a god that has a particular strategy, you tend to try and use that strategy to win rather than your standard strategy. So everyone kind of knows what to look out for, and it's then like pouncing on you whenever you're trying to do whatever it is that makes you win. So I think that kind of interaction makes it really fun.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
does, yeah.
And they don't last too long, so you don't get upset that you get knocked out, because we play a 3-player a lot. And you can occasionally get stuck, but actually usually people last to the end.
Yeah. The game is usually won more so than the other players are eliminated, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It works really well as a 3-player game as well.
Yeah.
Just because 2 players can gang up on the 1 player who's about to win quite easily. And so that leads to the game taking a while, and your strategy has to be very good. You have to trick people and stuff like that. So that's very fun. Yeah, very fun game.
Yeah.
And it's great for Christmas.
Yeah, it is very accessible as well. If you've never played board games before, it's a great one to pick up and get into, because you can figure it out. I think the rule book is only 3 or 4 pages. There's another 6 pages explaining what all the gods do, but to figure out the game, there's only a couple of pages to it, and it's really easy to get into.
Yeah, the one I've played it the first time, I thought something was wrong with my understanding of the rules, because it was deceptively simple. You just have to climb to the top of a 3-story building. And I thought, there's got to be more to this. There has to be more to this. But it's not. And that probably doesn't make any sense if you've never played Santorini. But if you do play it, it'll make sense. But it's deceptively simple. But that kind of mechanic just can go on forever.
Deceptively simple until your opponents decide they don't want you to climb to the top of the 3-tier tower and win. And now all of a sudden they're blocking you at every turn. And
So hopefully these top 5 games that we showed give you some Christmas ideas, whether you wanted to get Christmas presents for other people, or you wanted to bring out a Christmas game for your family and friends, and see what kind of games they wanted to play. We hope you enjoyed this special Christmas themed episode. If you want to pick up a copy of Dice Summoners, our board game, feel free to check out our website, www.dag.irish, or find it on Amazon. If you want to share your memories of Christmas board games, have any questions, or just want to chat, feel free to comment down below. We've been decking out some games. Thanks for listening. See ya.
bye.
Bye.